Gone are the bumps of Talladega's past. There's a new surface, and that means a new challenge. 7-time ARCA champion Frank Kimmel has never won a restrictor plate race, and the new asphalt might just pave the way. But all eyes will be on a newcomer. Indy 500 champion and ex-Formula One driver Juan Montoya makes his stock car debut. And the Colombian is about to learn that unlike open wheel, rubbing is racing. Rush hour is about to begin. The Food World 250 starts right now. Welcome to the final super speedway race of the season, the Food World 250 from Talladega Super Speedway. Well, the buzz in the stock car world is that open wheel phenom Juan Pablo Montoya is throwing his helmet into the ring. Where did it all start? Well, 2000 Indianapolis. Driving for Ganassi Racing, Juan won one of the most prestigious races in the world. Over the next 5 years, his fame grew while competing in the F1 series, and now for a change of scenery, it's stock cars. Yesterday, his first tense moment was actually in the tech line. Changes had to be made to the car before he was allowed out for qualifying, but when he did, he was impressive. Wendy Venerini caught up with him yesterday after qualifying.
Juan Pablo Montoya makes his stock car racing debut right here in the ARCA REMAX Series, right here at Talladega Speedway. Juan, talk about that qualifying run, a couple scary moments when you were rushing to get through tech inspection.
Yeah, it took a bit longer than expected. We had a couple little issues, nothing major, but you know, the guys did a really good job in the Texaco Javelin Dodge, so no, it's good. The car is working really well. And here, you know, it's not a big sign circuit. You know, you're flat out the whole time, and I think it's going to be a good learning curve for me. You know, the drafting tomorrow and everything. I think we've got a competitive car, and you know, the main goal here, of course, if I have a chance to win, I'm going to try to win. But you know, is focusing everything on next year. Is make sure we're well prepared when the season starts.
All right, talk about your emotions. What are you feeling your first stock car race?
A little bit stressed because there's so many things going on with the press and stuff. But you know, I'm just trying to focus on the team and make sure we focus on why we're here. You know, we're not here, you know, of course we're here to try to win the race, but the main focus is we're here to prepare ourselves for next year.
And he's taking it all in stride. Juan Pablo Montoya starts on the outside front row.
And that was yesterday. We see all of the cars in line. All the drivers are in those cars, so let's get them started with today's command.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Will you please welcome Vice President Bilo Bruno's Harold Carver to give the command.
On behalf of Food World, drivers, start your engines!
An impressive command given there, and some tense moments, I'm sure, for a few drivers. 21 of them first-timers here at Talladega, and you see the names of those drivers that will be starting their first ever ARCA REMAX Series race in Talladega. Hello, everyone. I'm Rick Allen alongside of Dan Pardis. Now, with all of those first-timers in this race, Dan, do you expect that to increase the chances of the big one happening?
Well, Rick, you know, these drivers have tested single file. They've done qualifying runs. They've done a lot of practice yesterday, qualifying again, a little bit of drafting this morning, but not very much. It takes a lot of experience to understand how the draft works and how that win works. So it's going to be a barn burner here today at Talladega, to say the best, I guess. These guys just got to use patience.
We expect some tight racing side by side out there on the racetrack. The points as we stand today, Frank Kimmel and Bobby Gerhart have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. It is a two-man race for this championship in 06. Now, Frank Kimmel, if he finishes 26th in this race and 26th in Iowa, he will lock up the championship. But if he falters, Bobby Gerhart still has a shot at winning this 06 title. With more on Frank Kimmel, Don Radebaugh.
Well, thanks, Rick. Frank Kimmel is second on the all-time win list with 67 victories. However, he's never won in the restrictor plate world at Daytona or here at Talladega. But hold the phone. Don't hang up yet. He's in a Roush-built race car here today, making plenty of power. I talked to the crew chief, Bill Kimmel, who tells me they are making excellent gas mileage. They are so pumped up and confident, they didn't even go out for happy hour this morning. I'm telling you what, gang, they've got one heck of a hot rod. Here's Bob Dillner.
If Frank Kimmel is the king of ARCA, then Bobby Gerhart is the king of the restrictor plate racetracks. He's won 4 times on those type of racetracks, once here at Talladega. He tells me his car here today, which is on the pole, is like the Pied Piper. It likes to stay out front. And as far as his next door neighbor, Juan Montoya, starting on the outside pole, he said, you know what? Juan Montoya to me is just any other racer. Talk about give and take. He'll certainly take a lot, but he doesn't plan to do much giving, Rick.
Well, Bobby Gerhart, obviously the favorite here. He won in Daytona to start off this season, but he has 40 cars on this racetrack that are also fighting for the Food World 250 title. And when we mentioned the 21 first-timers that are going to be running here and the big one, it could happen again today. We hope it doesn't, because the best racing is always when they're pointed straight when they come to the checkered flag. Well, after 26 years of running on the old pavement, they decided to tear it up and repave. That's 2.66 miles of repaving around this super speedway. It took a lot of work, a lot of manpower, and a lot of machine power to get it all done. Actually, 35,000 tons of asphalt were put around this racetrack. And not only did they take care of the racetrack, Dan, but they also worked on pit road as well.
They did, and this place is so smooth, Rick, it's like glass. That's the best way to describe it as a driver. I drove around this track yesterday for a few laps, and it's a totally different racetrack than we ever had here at Talladega. It's smooth.
Well, compare it. I mean, Dan, you've run on this racetrack before when it was, as you say, bumpy, and now this asphalt, will this make for better racing?
Well, it will, but what it's going to do for a driver, it's going to give us a sense of insecurity, Rick. We're going to drive down in there before when we go 2 and 3 wide. I think these drivers are going to run 3 and 4 wide, and that could cause for trouble because the cars will stick. It's not the issue. It's the guys on the inside of you when they run into the car next to you, and then it's a chain reaction. So we got to use patience, and we got to not take this place for granted because it's so smooth.
And with more on the repaving, let's go down to Wendy Venturini.
We all know the track has been repaved, but what about pit road? It has a new concrete surface. It's also 10 feet wider. Now I want to show you a close look at this new concrete pit road. It's very rough, very abrasive. You can see how rough it's going to be. Now what does this mean for the drivers? They have to be very cautious leaving pit road today. Why? Because if they leave too quickly and they snap that pinion, they can break a rear end, and that does not want to happen to a driver. Hopefully it won't happen, but if it does, it's something definitely we have to watch for on pit road today, guys.
Well, an amazing, I guess, reconditioning of this surface, but it's the same format as far as it's still 2.66 miles. It's still 33 degrees in the corner. It's still a tough racetrack as we look at the Food World 250 track map.
Yeah, it is. And like you say, Rick, the characteristics of this track stayed the same. The banking stayed the same. We did not do any major changes. We made it a little bit safer because we added some room down to the bottom. We call it runway room when we get spun out. A little bit more room for a driver to recover before he hits the grass. All good improvements to Talladega Superspeedway. 44
cars are on the racetrack as they do their pace laps. We take a look at our ARCA REMAX starting grid. Bobby Gerhart, his 8th career pole. Most of those have come on super speedways. 4 of them, as a matter of fact, came at Daytona in a row. Now on his outside, it's Juan Pablo Montoya, and all eyes will be on him today as he makes his stock car debut.
Yeah, and Bobby said he's treating Juan just like another race car driver. Bobby Gerhart has raced in the Nextel Cup Series with all the famous big drivers in that series also. And we all, when we're on the racetrack, we give each driver respect, and we treat each one just like we would no matter who you are.
Yeah, Frank Kimmel, and Don Radebaugh mentioned it, Frank Kimmel was one of the drivers who didn't go out for practice earlier today when they had their final practice. And it was a little bit surprising to me, Dan, that I didn't see big packs running together, because what they're going to do at the start of this race is they're going to be in a pack of 41. And during practice earlier today, I didn't see more than maybe 8 or 9 cars running together.
No, and it's a catch-22 situation, Rick. If you go out there and run in a big pack, you always have the fear and the threat of wrecking and that big pack piling up. But it's most important for a rookie driver to get that experience out here. So really, it's hard to come here and practice once you've made the race and try to get a lot of drafting experience. The time to do that is before you did it weeks ago when we come out here, but it's hard to get, 6 and 8 cars in a pack. So again, it's going to be one heck of a race, I believe.
At the back of the field, James Harvey Hilton will round out the 41 cars in this field. 72-year-old James Hilton at the back of the pack. That might be a good place for James. I mean, to keep his heart pumping as we are going to have some very tense moments around this racetrack. It is an amazing facility and made better, I think, with this new repaving. It
is, and the drivers are so excited because it's just so smooth. It's incredible, you know, to go these speeds. Again, in Nextel Cup practice, we've seen speeds at 198 mile an hour in the draft. I mean, this place is definitely speeded up a little bit because it's just so smooth. Keeps the momentum in the cars up going better.
Continuing around the racetrack, we will ride along with a few different drivers. Justin Dirks will be one of the drivers we'll ride with. He starts in the 37th position, so we'll see how he's able to do as far as drafting.
See Mario Gazin from Florida he's not run a lot of super speedway races here in the past. This was a big deal for him, brand new race car, so he's going to work on it during the race and try and make it better.
65 of Justin Marks out of Rockland, California will start in the 20th position. We ride along with him.
Steve.
There's actually Brian Coltrider that we're on board with right now. Steve Wallace will carry one of our cameras as well, but we'll ride along with Coltrider in the number 62 today.
There's Frank Kimmel. Not quite the place he wants to be. I'm sure he'd like to be on that front row, but you know, he's got one in front. If that outside line will move, he'll try to get single file. The key to these guys is to get single file, and that's what I talked to Frank about. He said, I'm going to get single file as quick as I can, Dan.
And Steve Wallace carrying one of our cameras. Steve will start in the 11th position. Steve knows how to win in this series. He has 2 wins this season. First one coming at Kentucky and his most recent at Chicago. Now, there were 51 drivers that attempted to qualify for this field, and 41 made it, so that means these 10 are going home.
Quite an impressive field here at Talladega. Good quality cars this year, and they just keep getting better and better every year. I mean, just what a strong field of race cars we've ever had, I believe, since I've been around this series.
Here's some guys who made some changes after the final practice, or the happy hour that was earlier this morning. They will have to go to the back.
Yep, unfortunate rules. That's ARCA REMAX Series rules. Anytime we make a change, little or major, we have to go to the back and start in the back. So these guys will have to pick their way through the field.
One guy starting in the 7th position in the 09 has experience winning in the ARCA REMAX Series at Talladega, and that's Mike Wallace. Don?
Well, Mike Wallace is also the only guy that's going to attempt to run all 3 divisions here this weekend, so he's going to be very, very busy. A 6-time ARCA REMAX Series, and yes, one of those victories right here at Talladega Superspeedway back in 1995. And remember, he was quickest in the first practice session here. He says his car drafts very, very well. He's very confident he'll be the guy going to victory lane. Here's Bob Dillner.
Anytime you come to Talladega, the thoughts of the Alabama game come to mind. Bobby Allison, Donnie Allison, Neil Bonnet, Justin South starting 10th today will try to make the Alabama game very proud.
This is a unique track in the fact that the trioval, or the apex of the trioval, doesn't have the start-finish line. It's actually between the apex and turn 1. The green flag flies, and we're underway.
Outside.
We will hear outside, we'll hear inside, we will see side by side all day long, and we see somebody not able to come up to speed early on in this one. We'll check into that a little further and find out what's going on.
Well, we had a really good start too, Rick. Sometimes your fear is a guy up front missing a gear, missing a restart, and calls on a pile up, but tremendous good start here at this race.
Juan Pablo Montoya out in front in his first ever stock car race. It was Ryan Howard in the 59 that was not able to come up to speed. He's on the inside of the racetrack. He's actually in turn 2 right now. Wendy, what's going on with Ryan?
No power on the 59 of Ryan Howard. He just came over the radio and said no power on either box. Unfortunate start to his day.
Well, and the opposite end of the spectrum, in his first ever stock car start, he will lead his first ever lap, and that's Juan Montoya in the Haviland number 4.
Well, that's the place you want to be if you're Juan. First time here, get out in front. It's the easiest place to be. What a good feeling as a driver just to get out there and set sail. And Bobby Gerhardt's got his front bumper tucked up underneath him, and he said, I'll let him ride out there for a few laps and just see what it feels like.
We're going to see drafting as we see Ryan Howard bring the car all the way in toward the infield, so that he's out of the way of the racetrack. Frank Kimmel is tucked into 3rd. So again, we've got Juan Pablo Montoya out in front, Bobby Gerhardt 2nd, Frank Kimmel 3rd, and a new addition to the booth. Hey, Ken Schrader, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm a little bit of a crash to get up here, but I wanted to see the start of this deal.
You just came off the racetrack.
Very smooth, a lot of grip. It's going to make everyone a lot more aggressive as far as how close they run to one another, because it's like, well, heck, I know where I'm going now. Used to, you weren't exactly sure. I think we have a yellow here for a stalled car, I think it was.
Yes, caution coming out. Ryan Howard on the backstretch, not able to get that one going. No power is what we heard from Wendy Venerini. And so as the officials will take care of Ryan Howard, the field will line up behind Juan Pablo Montoya, his first ever start in the ARCA REMAX Series or a stock car here at Talladega Superspeedway. Speed's coverage of the ARCA REMAX Series from Talladega is presented by REMAX. Outstanding agents, outstanding results. Brought to you in part by Food World, everyday low prices, and by Suzuki, introducing the new Grand Vitara, the authentic SUV. First caution coming out on the second lap because of Ryan Howard not able to get up to speed, and so the track officials and ARCA officials getting that car off of the surface racing area so that it would not be a problem or a threat to any of the other cars racing. And so the pace car leading the field around, and there's that 59 of Ryan Howard. He got a push back onto pit road.
New sponsor on that car, HD Supply. Hope to put better things together for Ryan next year in 2007.
Again, out in front of this field, Juan Pablo Montoya. Bob, what's going on with that driver?
Well, a lot of instructions going down to Juan Montoya inside that car right now. It's kind of like Stock Car 101, Brad Parrott, making sure that Juan Pablo Montoya knows exactly what to do. Hey, Juan, stay high until you get to the green flag, and then get down to the bottom and make it as if the car is glued on that bottom groove. We'll talk you through it, and it's the education process for Formula One driver Juan Montoya. Don?
Well, thanks, Bob. Frank Kimmel hasn't had a lot of green flag laps to run with yet here, but he tells me, I heard him over the radio saying this is the best handling race car he's ever had at Talladega Superspeedway. He did say the sun was a little trouble coming off turn 4. It's a little unusual. The series usually doesn't race this late in the day, so maybe the sun will be a factor as it sets down. But Frank's reporting is car is absolutely perfect. He loves it. He says you're going to see 3 and 4 wide racing today. He says the new track surface is making everyone more confident, I guess more brave. Schrader, I don't know if that's good or bad here.
Well, I think a lot of what Frank's feeling is as far as his car handling real good is it's not bouncing around, and there's no slippage at all because of the new pavement. I guarantee there's a lot of guys that'll fight problems this weekend, and handling will not be a big one. And definitely I think we're going to see more side-by-side racing, which I don't really know where we had room for more side-by-side racing at Talladega, but I think we'll see it more of it and closer together.
We take a look at our Food World 250 race analysis. 94 laps, 250 miles, and that's a little bit shorter than what they're used to running here. And Don had mentioned the sun going down. There are no lights around this racetrack, and so we cannot go into the darkness. And so this race actually just 250 miles where it has been 300 miles in the past.
And it does get plenty dark just shortly after 6:30. So that's something we definitely got to the ARCA officials are going to keep their eye on today.
Yep, and they did address it in the driver's meeting. They said, guys, you can make this race end quickly, or you can be here till it goes dark and it may not end. So it's up to you guys. And, you know, they gave them the pep talk before the race like we always hear, Kenny. You know, guys, stay in line, you know, give a little bit. Don't be trying to go 4 and 5 wide. And we talked about this track so good that you do take it for granted.
Yes, I mean, but they give us that talk every week, but that doesn't mean that we're always paying a lot of attention. And then the other thinking is, oh man, if this race is going to go short, I got to go now, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we'll see problems when a race doesn't get to go to distance, and they say, okay, instead of 50 laps left, you've got 30 laps left, and that's when everybody all of a sudden panics.
So do we not have patience? Isn't that I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but patience has got to be important at a racetrack like this, doesn't it, Kenny?
It is very important, but it is also, you know, when you make your living, you get paid by going fast and passing cars. Patience and racing is something that takes a while and extremely hard to learn.
Yeah. Pace car making its way back down pit road. Again, out in front in the Texaco Haviland. Number 4, Juan Montoya. Right behind him, Bobby Gerhardt. Then it's Frank Kimmel. Matt Hagan's finished third at Daytona at the beginning of this season. And then Mike Wallace rounding out our top 5. He's got a win on this racetrack in the ARCA REMAX Series. And so he has definite experience getting to the checkered flag first. Back underway, single file. We see a couple cars falling out of that line.
You know, Montoya's been known for, you know, in Formula F1 and all his series just to be astronomical on restarts, and he's been proving that here today. So if he can carry that into the stock car world, that'll be a big help, because we know how important it is to get, once that green flag falls, getting to go.
No, it's very important. Talladega isn't one of those places that you want to open up a football field between you and the second place car real quick, because a lot of times they'll gang up and get a run at you. But with everybody handling as good as they are, it's gonna make passing a little trickier. I mean, they can get out there and run 3 or 4 wide easier, but actually completing the pass is going to be harder.
Like right now, we're seeing a pack of 5 break away, I guess you would say. There's 4 or 5 car lengths between 5th and 6th right now. Can a pack of 5 leave the rest of the pack?
Well, most definitely they can, especially when we see this 3 wide racing going on back here. And when you look up in your mirror and you see that, you know you can be making some time quick. So it just depends how good behavior everybody's on up in that front group. We see probably about 12 cars there now trying to distance themselves a little bit from that second pack.
This is such a huge racing facility, the biggest racetrack that these drivers will ever race on, and it's almost bigger than what you can explain to people. I mean, it looks like you're driving on the freeway out here, but they're going upwards of 190 to 195 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's amazing when you go to Daytona and you see this huge track, and you think 31 degrees, 2.5 miles. And then you come here, and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing looks like it's half again as big, even though it's only banked 2 more degrees, and it's 2.66 miles. It looks like it's 1.5 times the width and length of Daytona.
Riding along with Steve Wallace, and you will very rarely, but right there you can almost hear him feathering the accelerator, but for the most part, these guys will have it flat to the ground the whole time.
Right, you definitely, you run this place flat out. You'll have to, like Steven there in the 61 car had to feather up because he had a little bit of a run on Frank, and he doesn't want to get out of line. Now, if he follows Frank here, Frank goes around Bobby, see what happens. Now, Steven's biggest worry is he clears Bobby also, and they don't all of a sudden wind up 2 by 2 by 2.
I mean, Bobby Gerhardt, he's probably saying, what the heck's going on here? He jumped to the outside there a few minutes ago, guys. Mike Wallace jumped on the outside with him, and they started to go, and Mike said, see ya. He jumped to the bottom and dumped Bobby Gerhardt. I'm sure he wasn't happy about that, but Bobby's not used to being in traffic, and I talked to him a little bit about it. I said, how's the car draft, Bobby? He said, to be honest with you, I really don't know. I've always been out front with this car, so I'm not real sure if it sucks up or not. So it's a good question to see what's going to happen today with Bobby Gerhardt's 45 car.
Across the start-finish line last time, 5th was the 61 of Steve Wallace. Bob, what's going on with Steve?
Well, Steven was pretty disappointed with his qualifying run of 11th, but he also told me, you know what, I need to get out there. I know I have a good race car. I need to show some patience here in the early part of this race. It's a big restrictor plate race for him, a big testing ground for what's yet to come for young Steven Wallace, who plans to do a lot of Busch Series racing next year. And that's a good deal that he's already thinking that, because, Kenny, as you said, patience is key here at Talladega.
Most definitely, it's patience. When you go from the ARCA Series to the Truck or the Busch Series with a little bit longer races, and then you go from the Busch Series to the Cup Series and even longer races, it becomes more and more important.
Down on the inside, some of those driver development drivers that are involved in this race, the 31, Timothy Peters. Wendy?
Well, we know Timothy Peters has a limited schedule with RCR in the Busch Series for next season. So right now, he's just trying to get laps. Even though Busch doesn't come to Talladega, he is just trying to get experience. He told me in that drafting practice, he worked on finding friends. And I asked him, well, who was your buddy out there? He actually said it was Billy Venturini, that they drafted together. He learned a lot about the track, and he's just trying to gain experience here at the Super Speedway.
Well, for the first time, someone has gotten in front of Juan Montoya. And that is Bobby Gerhardt taking a look at the front, and Frank Kimmel, our leader in points, right behind him.
Looks like the 99 car of Kelly Byers looks like he's got a little overheating issue. You can see him blowing steam out right up top the overflow on the right front windshield there. Looks like he's overheating this early in the game. Not a good thing, huh, Ken?
Not something you want to see at lap 10. You know, either they need to get a little tape off the front, or they do have a problem with the engine. So that's Wood Brothers JTG development driver, and we've been very impressed with him, and he's done a good job so far this weekend.
Here we go for the lead. Bobby Gerhardt on the inside. Kimmel as we ride along on the outside, side by side as they go down the backstretch. Don?
This is big, guys. Remember, there's another title on the line here, the Super Speedway Challenge, an accumulation of all the Super Speedways in the 2006 season. Right now, Bobby Gerhardt leads Frank Kimmel in the Speedway Challenge by just 5 points. It will literally mean whoever finishes ahead of the other who will win the Super Speedway Challenge in 2006. Another title on the line at Talladega.
And more smoke coming out of one of the cars. We believe it's the 50.
Yep. 50. He had a valence caved in earlier, Kenny. We've seen it there on the restart. I don't know exactly what happened there. Looks like he's got peeling the right side of that car.
Right. He's going to have a lot bigger problems here in just a little bit.
Yeah.
He's got issues now, but you know, there's a yellow 2 laps away if that car doesn't hit pit road pretty soon.
So Bobby Gerhardt out in front of Juan Montoya, Frank Kimmel. Timothy Peters has moved into 4th here at Talladega. Foreshadowing maybe for Juan Montoya back in 2003. He switched rides with Jeff Gordon. So he got into Jeff Gordon's stock car while Jeff Gordon got into his race car. A little open wheel for him. But Juan Montoya having a little fun there with Jeff Gordon. That, like I said, maybe foreshadowing for what's to come.
What I gathered out of that was both of those guys proved real quick that they were world-class drivers, because both of them adapted extremely quick to the other one's car, and you couldn't pick two automobiles that are farther apart than that. Something I think we have to attribute to the new pavement here is we've seen, like we've always talked about, the ARCA races getting more and more competitive. But here we are, 14 laps in, we had 1 yellow right off the bat, so we're probably 11 green laps or so, and we still see 25 or so in a pile.
So, you know, we talked about it earlier, Kenny. We started to break up into 2 packs, and the front guy started jogging around. Now we've got 26 cars back in this lead pack. Again, when that front group gets moving around a little bit, that back pack picked them back up. Now we got 26 cars back in the lead draft.
Yeah, looks a little stressful to me.
Got a slow one there on the inside. I believe that is James Harvey Hilton in the 48. He's going to go a lap down. But out in front of the field now, our points leader, Frank Kimmel, and we see more smoke coming out of the 22. That one's being driven by Chase Miller today. Chase out of Canton, Georgia.
Yep, looks like possibly they may have taped these cars up a little too much. Not sure. You know, it did cool down here a little bit, so either, like you said, it's a tape issue, or they do got internal motor problems.
I don't see any smoke or any liquid coming out of the 99 right now, and then it tells me it's fixed itself or it's out of liquid. And
only
most of the
lap
time they don't fix themselves, so we'll just hopefully it did.
Well, the other thing, the happy hour for the ARCA series was run this morning, and it was quite a bit cooler because it was overcast. Now the sun has come out. It's a little bit warmer, but I wouldn't expect that to cause any overheating problems.
No. I hear Bob's got something maybe about the 99 for us.
Exactly, Kenny. In fact, that car overheating as well. In fact, Kelly Byers came over the radio and said, hey, guys, I think the temperature gauge is broke because it's pegged. And they said, no, the car is overheating. We're seeing the water push out on the front stretch. The temperature gauge actually has come down to 270. That's still not good. And the crew keeps on yelling to him, hey, we got to get clean air to the nose. But when the spotter is telling you, hey, you're 2 wide, you're 3 wide, Kenny, how difficult is it to get clean air to that nose?
Well, he's got to get to the back of that group and get out right now, whether he gets to the top or the bottom. But that's the only way he's going to do it right now. And you hate to give up that position, but you got to be thinking about the end of the race here, and you have to be around at the end of the race.
Yeah, you do. And by pulling out, it slows your race car down, but it'll save your race car. So again, he said the temperature was 270 degrees. Normally you would want to see about 230, maybe 240 at the very most, but 270 is way up there.
Out in front, Mike Wallace in the 09. And we've seen a few different drivers holding on to the top spot. Bobby Gerhart, Juan Montoya. Now, Juan Montoya has been shuffled back. We see him on the high side of the racetrack. He's back in about 8th or 9th position now. That's got to be a little bit of a different feel. He was out in front, didn't have any cars around him, and now all of a sudden he's in a little bit more of a confined space in a car that's probably not too familiar to it.
Life was real good when he was leading. and life isn't bad now. It'll get a little more hectic at Bristol, you know, and that. But you know, he has the talent to pull this off.
One of the cars we were riding along with, Mario Goslin, having to do some work on that, and not a good sign as one of the crew members gave a sign of, I don't think it's going to go again. And we see problems with Timothy Peters in that 31. Looks like he's got a flat tire.
Looks like a left rear tire is flat.
It's shredded, but it looks like he's got it down. If he can keep it from blowing apart, tearing the fender well off that car, it won't be as bad as it really could be.
Wendy.
Timothy Peters just came over the radio and said he did run over a piece of metal off of turn 4. They are coming down to change that tire.
Well, he's got to make it all the way down the back straightaway. That's where he's at now. You see the carcass of that tire just about to come off of it. And if it comes off, could tear up that fender well. So he's got to be careful that don't happen.
Could tear up the fender well, but it could also bring out the yellow flag that he would like to have.
Yep. Double-edged sword there.
And it is shredded. He's about to run. He is now running on the wheel. No more rubber between him and the ground, and so we're going to see a lot more smoke coming out.
Yep. Down in turn 3 and 4, so still got 3/4 of a mile or so to get down pit row. There's the carcass of the tire.
That's how close it is to the racing surface. ARCA officials may be looking at that as a danger to the rest of the drivers, but we still have not seen a caution fly. And as I say that, the caution does come out. And so our second caution of the day comes out, and that is for the blown tire of Timothy Peters, as Timothy Peters tries to make his way back down to pit road. Out in front of the field, it's Mike Wallace. Matt Higgins has moved to second. Billy Venerini moved up into the 3rd position. The top 5 rounded out by Steve Wallace and Juan Montoya. Tire problems early for Timothy Peters. Sunday on Speed, the chase for the championship drafts into Talladega. JR, Jimmy, and Kenny break down the championship standings and how restrictor plate racing can turn any chaser's championship hopes upside down. Don't miss NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot, Sunday, 11:30 Eastern, live on Speed. Our second caution of the afternoon has come out.
You know, it won't just turn your hopes upside down. It'll get you upside down real quick, and the car you're riding in.
It could turn you upside down. Right along with Steve Wallace, just behind him, Frank Kimmel.
What do you think they're going to do on fuel here?
Juan Montoya. Well, I would think the smart thing would be to come in and fill it up.
No, I don't know. They just tell me what to do. That's why I was asking you. They say pit or don't. I just do what they tell me.
Well, it looks as though we're going to see Juan Montoya bring the number 4 down. Bob Dillner.
And right now, Juan Montoya likes his race car. He said it's just a little bit tight in the center of the corner. But crew chief Brent Parent said, we want to keep it exactly that way for you right now. It'll be 4 tires, no adjustments whatsoever for Juan Montoya here down in the first pit on pit road.
And the real amazing thing I think we have to bring up is this is really the first type of a pit stop for Juan Montoya, because normally he'll come down pit road in his open wheel car and push a button.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they got a lot of buttons. I don't know what that many buttons do, but you know, he pulls in and he's got like, what is it, 8-9 seconds on the Formula 1 cars here, so he's got just almost half or twice the time.
He's also got to worry about his, and we see ice being dumped into the engine compartment.
Chase Miller, 22 car, appears to be.
Yeah, let me just tell you this.
Cooling that down. I don't know if that's going to help much, huh, Ken?
I'm just thinking that just in my 20-plus years, that's not a good sign.
Wendy.
Well, not a good day for them. It's kind of odd to see a whole ice cooler brought over pit road. I haven't seen that, and I can't say I've ever seen that, honestly. But they have been overheating, and they are trying to get that vehicle back down on the temperatures. Chase Miller, an unfortunate day for him.
Yep, and if you see the cool down, they got the cool down unit, and these are the hoses running across. They plug them in on quick disconnects into the radiator and run that cool iced water through that engine to get that temperature down. But if there's a motor issue, then it'll just boil itself back up. So either they got to pull tape off or they got an internal issue.
Chase Miller, one of the driver development programs for Dodge.
You think the bottom of that hood's supposed to be painted like light gray and it's got something else on it now?
I think it said it's hot.
Steve Wallace, another one of those in the driver development program for his father. Wallace running in the 4th position right now. Timothy Peters had the tire problems earlier.
Justin Dirks, the Red Farmer, part of that effort. Robert Yates development deal.
Out in front of the field, it's Mike Wallace in the Miccosukee number 09. That Dodge leading the field around Talladega Super Speedway. But for how long? Drafting will take place behind him when we come back.
Sunday night on the Speed Report.
Unrivaled coverage of the biggest F1 race of the year, Schumacher versus Alonso from Japan. Plus, we go all access with Juan Montoya in his ARCA debut.
The Speed Report, Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Speed.
Carl, do your flip.
Fernando, you're on.
Crazy old man. NASCAR fans now get free incoming calls from anyone from anywhere. Next up, only from Sprint.
Hey, it's our friend Bob. Looks like Bob continues to enjoy the big lift he gets from Enzyte and natural male enhancement. With over 10 million packs sold, Enzyte is firmly the #1 selling brand, bringing true natural male enhancement to men all over the world. Now you can join Bob and the millions of men who fully enjoy the benefits of Enzyte. Just call or visit Enzyte.com for a sample pack of the strongest, most powerful Enzyte formula yet. Enjoy the full, robust confidence that only Enzyte can provide. If you've ever been curious about natural male enhancement, there's never been a better time to try a sample pack of Enzyte. Visit Enzyte.com or call toll-free for a sample pack. Call right now and you'll also get 2 free packs of Enzyte Topical Rush. With an offer this big, it's enough to throw a parade. Sample packs are in stock now and shipped to you within 48 hours. Offer only good while supplies last. Limit 1 per household. Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement.
A year ago at this racetrack, it was the number 10 crossing the start-finish line first, and young Craig Kinzer claiming his first ever victory in the ARCA REMAX Series. And a big win when you come to Talladega in the 2.66-mile super speedway. Craig Kinzer entered in Iowa for next week, so we will see him again next week. And maybe he can relive that effort that he had when he was in victory lane a year ago here. Bob Dillner.
Well, Juan Mania has certainly hit pit road already in the ARCA REMAX Series. You see all these people here. Well, when Juan came down pit road, the team had some trouble getting the tire back once it actually got off of the car and tried to come back towards the wall. Well, there's so many people down here that the team could not grab the tire. So what Brad Parrott, the crew chief, has done is he's actually moved one of the metal barriers down here back a little bit. That used to be over here. Well, the crew was over here trying to get the tire, and what happened was there was such a big media circus over here, the tire came and shot against this wall and then bounced out. Now, the team did go and get that tire, so they recovered it, no penalty needed, but the Juan circus has certainly created a stir down here on pit road.
Get out of their way then, Bob.
I was back here.
The media circus is continuing because Bob's standing right in the way.
One left. You know, listening to Brad Parrott there, he said, Juan, the reason why I brought you in there, he said, you know, we've seen 2 or 3, possibly 4 left rear tires go down. He said, I wasn't taking any chances. He said, I wanted to bring you in just to keep it safe. So possibly a little strategy there by being a little extra cautious by Brad Parrott so that Juan's going to be there at the end tonight.
Now, Juan Montoya has been on this racetrack prior to this racing, I guess, experience. He came out here to test back last month. It was actually the 25th of September, and actually 32 teams came out to do testing here on this racetrack, Juan being one of those, and so he was able to get a little bit of a feel for this racetrack.
I think it was like 6th quick or something in testing, and worked on getting in and out of the pits quite a bit too. I saw some of that on the speed coverage.
And that's such a big difference, as he was trying to get as much information from the other drivers as to, you know, what to expect, because it's totally new in a racing situation when you come down pit road.
Right, and it's going to be new again when he restarts a little bit farther back here.
Yep, that's going to be a little different experience. Again, you know, he has not been able to do a lot of drafting and getting a lot of wind. Again, all that practicing and all that stuff, you know, is single car runs. But when you get out here in a big bundle of them, it's a whole different world.
This is Timothy Peters in the 31. Now, again, we had talked about the flat tire for Timothy Peters. He actually tried to get back out in front of the field after they made that tire change, and may have sped off pit road or done something wrong, and so the ARCA officials are holding him right now.
Yep.
So the black flag out for the 31 of Timothy Peters. He is serving his penalty as the field continues around this racetrack at pace speed. Mike Wallace, Matt Higgins, Billy Venturini, Steve Wallace, and Frank Kimmel are your top 5 from Talladega Superspeedway. Tomorrow on Speed, it's the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix. The points race is neck and neck, with Michael Schumacher making a monumental run on Fernando Alonso. Can the German write one more winning chapter before his storybook career ends? Find out at the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix, live tomorrow, 12:30 a.m. on Speed. 12:30 a.m., Ken, so set your alarm for that one.
Yeah, no problem. I think we qualify at 11. You know I'll be getting up at right then.
12:30 a.m. Juan Montoya started this race in second, was able to get out in front on the first lap, led a few laps here, and then after the pit stop has dropped back into the field, so he will have to work his way back toward the front, currently in 19th position. Don, what's going on with Mike Wallace?
Well, Mike Wallace, during that last caution, was campaigning very hard to come down pit road. Then the crew chief, Mark Reno, stepped in and said, well, wait a minute. Let's wait till about lap 54, and then we'll be in the window to make it to the end. Mike came back and said, sounds good to me. The car is very good. He wants no changes to this machine. Wendy.
While the 09 was campaigning whether or not they should pit, the 9 of Matt Higgins behind him was trying to figure out what was wrong with their radios. They had lost communication with their crew chief, trying to figure out if they should pit or not. Obviously, they decided to stay out, and they came back when they got communication and said they plan to just follow the 09 on the pit strategy.
I'll tell you what, when it comes to Daytona and Talladega, there is no better driver than Mike Wallace. He can flat grab. He can get it done here.
And right now, he leads the field as the restart has taken place. We're on lap 26 of 94. You can see on the top of the screen the Food World ticker go across there. Find your favorite driver and where they're running currently, how far they are behind Mike Wallace.
Matt Higgins running in second there behind Mike Wallace. This is the car that he finished third in at Daytona. The car performs really well. It's a super stable race car, and he was real excited. He said, Dan, I got me a top 3 car here. I believe I could win this race here today if I put myself in contention.
Matt Higgins finished third at Daytona at the beginning of this season, so we know he can run well in the super speedways. Right along with Steve Wallace.
Hey, Steve's got a good race car. He started in 11th position here today, and he's been just picking cars up. That car appears to draft really well after about that second lap. Once we get up to speed, they're just completing their first lap, but it seems like that second lap of that 61 car is Steve, and it really comes alive in the draft. And it's so important to have, Kenny, there's race cars, and then there's race cars that'll really suck up. I mean, explain to us basically the difference. I mean, one that doesn't suck up, you just can't go nowhere.
Yeah, it's just, we're talking about being able to close the gap onto those cars in front of you. And a lot of times you'll have a car that doesn't have a lot of speed by itself, but when someone gets behind it, it'll take off, or when it can see another car up in front of it, it'll just catch up, and it's very critical here.
Juan Montoya restarted when the green flag came out in 19th. He's trying to take a position away from Blake Bjorklund in that number 32. Bjorklund currently being scored in the 13th position. Moved up to 12th. Montoya to 13th now. That's side-by-side racing back there. Justin Allgaier, number 16, on the low side of the track. He'll move up in front of Blake Bjorklund. And at this point in the race, do you have friends out there that you work with, Ken?
Well, if you get a couple of you that are in the back on the restart, you might try to get back up there together through yourself. But you get, you know, as we'll notice here, every time you get around it, you get ahead of another car, you get to the faster cars, it gets a little bit harder and a little bit harder.
Yep, it gets frustrating too.
And we saw the speed there. The leader was running 190 and Juan Montoya was running 194, but that can be deceiving because, as you mentioned, the sucking up is what normally will make a driver have a faster lap time or lap speed because they're able to suck up behind somebody else, whereas the leader can't. He can't suck up behind anybody. He can get pushed around the track, but he can't suck up. Well, let's go down to Bob Dillon with more on the lawn.
Well, Rick, this was pretty funny. They were talking over the radio with Juan during that caution period, and he termed it as mad mayhem out here. He said, this is unbelievable. And then he started thinking, he goes, hey, we're in mid-pack right now. Do I have any friends out there that I can draft with? So already Juan Montoya in his first ever stock car race, first ever restrictor place, is already thinking like a veteran. But then again, Brad Parrott said, hey, right now, you have no friends.
Well, but he will have some friends because he's got an extremely fast car. He's got a Ganassi car in the ARCA race, and there'll be people that when he goes by, would be more than happy to tuck in behind him and try to ride that ship to the front.
Yep, you're exactly right. When a fast car comes by you, the first thing you want to do is get back and latch on his bumper just as quick as you can. It's so important to try and stay with that draft, and everybody knows that Juan Montoya has got a good piece of equipment out there today, so everybody wants a little bit of that air.
As you mentioned, success for the 09 of Mike Wallace, and tucking behind him, maybe for just a little bit, is Steve Wallace in the new South Lemonade, number 61. He looks as though he's going to draft with Mike Wallace for a while.
Yeah, you think that he's worried that he needs to show respect to his uncle there? Well, I don't think he is.
You got the Wallaces running nose to tail here at the front of the pack, and then it's Kimmel and Gerhardt, two drivers battling for the 2006 championship just behind them, and then a development driver in Timothy Peters in fifth.
Timothy Peters a lap down there earlier, you know, from that earlier left rear blown, but he's got a really good race car, Rick, and he's able to hang with this lead pack. So if he can, you know, catch that caution right and get up front, maybe he can get that lap back.
Yeah, the difference between ARCA and some of the NASCAR series is there's no lucky dog. You can't be the first car a lap down and get your lap back. So he's got to get around those cars in front of him and be ahead of them when the yellow comes out.
You've got to earn it here in the ARCA series.
Field coming out of turn number 4. Wendy, what's Gerhardt saying?
Well, on that last caution, Bobby Gerhardt was talking with his brother and crew chief Billy on what line to run. They decided they were going to try the outside momentarily. Well, they tried it when we went back green, and it didn't seem to work for Bobby Gerhardt. So he got back in line, and now, of course, the whole line is single draft.
And again, you see, we kind of had two packs there for just a minute, but if these front 6 cars will stay single file, they'll be able to pull away from that pack. But again, they're getting a little racy up there, and then they get that 26, 28 car pack piled back up on them. So again, like you said earlier, Kenny, it's so important that lead pack stay together.
This is a lot more cars in a bigger group than we have seen here in the past.
Yep, and I probably attribute a little of that to maybe ARCA's spring package. We've got 1,500-pound springs minimum in the front of these cars, 2-inch sway bar minimum in the front of these cars, maximum, I'm sorry. You got to run 450 or 500 springs in the rear, so all these cars are pretty much springed identical. It's all about aerodynamics and horsepower then kind of that separates the rest.
Yeah, I think it's all about new pavement myself.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah.
It's got to make a big deal, I'm sure.
I was going to say, I think the new pavement and the lack of the bumps that people had talked about for the past 26 years has really made this a smooth racing surface, and we're going to see guys drive side by side.
We're seeing the cars move around a lot less, and because of that, usually, you know, by now you've seen a half a dozen near misses that terrified you, but nothing happened, and we haven't seen that. I'm sure some of these guys have seen it.
Yeah. Now, does that make you feel good about your race on Sunday? Do you feel like, okay, we can be a little racier now on this racing surface?
No, I think we're gonna give a whole new meaning to the term "the big one."
Yeah, it's gonna be a 43 car pack basically. I mean, if these guys are packing up this much, I see the Nextel Cup Series as one big pack.
Just on the outside there, we see Billy Venturini dropping back just a bit. Wendy.
Well, Well, we do know Billy Venturini changed his engine program earlier this season. After 4 blown engines in 6 races, they decided to switch over, spend a little bit more money with Pro Motor, and it seems to be helping on these super speedways. Now, of course, Billy jumped out just momentarily. I saw him get out there, and he didn't seem to have many friends out there, so I think he's going to lose a couple spots right there. Of course, Timothy Peters, who is a lap down, was in front of him.
Well, even Timothy being a lap down, guys, he's got such a good race car. I wouldn't bother me to jump on his bumper, and Billy's using all that to his advantage also, because that is a good car, that 31 car.
Again, we almost lose perspective of the speeds that they're carrying around here. Over 190 miles an hour for these cars as they run almost inches apart from each other.
Yeah, I wonder what Juan's thinking here. It's like, you know, sometimes it's a big deal when they pass one another. And running side by side for a turn is a big deal. Life's different.
And 3,400 pounds compared to almost half that when he was driving open wheel. Out in front, it's Mike Wallace, and right behind him, Bobby Gerhardt. The younger Wallace has taken the point at the Food World 250 at Talladega Super Speedway. Steve Wallace deciding not to follow Uncle Mike Wallace anymore around this track. He wants to hold on to the top spot.
We saw Billy Venturini shoot to the top there. Just some good racing.
Billy Venturini running third the last time they went by the start-finish line. Bobby Gerhardt dropped back to fourth. And we're going to see a lot of that. I mean, guys will drop 5, 6 spots in one lap. And problems behind our leaders. The 11 getting into the wall hard. That's Brian Silas, as well as the 78 having troubles with Doug Reed. Wow. And that was a hard hit by Brian Silas in that number 11.
Andy Hillenberg entry. Fast track.
There's what we like to see.
That window net's down. Good sign. Good sign.
And that's attributed to the way the cars are constructed, as well as that safer barrier that's located around this track and on the inside walls.
See Dougie Reed moving around inside there. And man, there's the window net down. Good sign. Both them drivers, hard impact.
Saw that smoke right at the back of that front group.
Let's take one more look at what just took place on lap 36. Again, out in front, it's Steve Wallace, and just behind them, 3 wide, but it wasn't going to work out. Brian Silas kind of came down a little bit and airborne.
Yeah, the 22 stuck his nose in a hole that wasn't quite big enough, too. Got in the back of Juan, and he did a good job of gathering it up.
Oh, he sure did.
I think the 22
stuck it in. There's Montoya right to the bottom. Little impact to the left side door there. Wow.
A little damage to the rear bumper also of that number 4.
Dougie Reed, a victim of the circumstance, just riding down there on the bottom, and pow! Look at the car up in the air. Man, do a whole 360 before it lays back down.
There's the hard one. Wow. Look at the official.
Yeah,
the official knew to get down.
Better get out of here.
Again, we mentioned the safer barrier, trying to take a lot of that impact so that the driver doesn't have to.
Thank goodness for safer barrier.
Riding along Chase Miller there in the 22. We saw him go off to the left. We saw some damage to that number 4 of Juan Montoya. He's down on pit road. Bob?
Yeah, right now he is on pit road, like you said, Rick, and Juan Montoya said, I felt the impact, but he didn't know how extensive the damage was. And Brad Parrott just radioed to him saying, hey, it's not too bad. It's just on the door. So right now, guys, get to the door. Let's get that sheet metal back out. And that's what they're working on that number 4 machine right now. They did change right side tires as well, and Juan Montoya already heading back out in the racetrack.
What would be interesting to see is how he got into pit road.
Yeah, he got down there quick.
Yes.
And if the crush panels are not knocked out of this car will be okay. So we just have to see what happens there.
Take another look at what happened to
Chase Miller.
He's going minding his own business, doesn't know what's getting ready to happen.
Boom.
Yeah, the problem, as you mentioned, Ken, how did he get on pit road so quickly? Well, he went when pit road was closed, so he's going to have a little bit of a problem with that. Take another look. It's all happening behind our onboard. To the 22 coming up the middle.
Right here down the center. Gets in the back of the left rear of the 11 car. Brian Silas, there's nothing you can do as a driver.
Bob, what's going on with the team?
Well, Juan Montoya, a 7-time Formula One winner, asked his crew, hey, did I do anything wrong? Brad Parrott came on the radio, said, absolutely not. You basically saved a very good race car. Good job, buddy. But Brad Parrott has told Juan, when pit road is reopened, please bring that car back down pit road. They want to do some more work on that right-hand side.
He did a very good job of gathering that car up. It would have been easy to get away.
Yep, the key to that is just hold on to the steering wheel and not try and make any sudden movements, right, Kenny?
Yeah, you gotta jerk it pretty quick. You just gotta jerk it the right amount.
Little bit, little fast.
And again, the 11 and 78 came to rest just at the front of pit road. And so pit road is closed as they continue to clean up the vehicles that were involved in this accident. So when pit road is open, Juan Montoya will bring the number 4 back down and will probably have to serve a penalty. Steve Wallace out in front of the field from Talladega.
10 years of feeling the need for speed. Happy 10th anniversary, Speed Channel.
Juan Pablo Montoya honing his skills in the F1 series before making the move to stock car racing. 7 wins, as Bob Dillner mentioned earlier, in the F1 series. 4 of those coming driving for Williams, 3 more last year for McLaren. So had his hands full just moments ago when he was involved in the accident that has brought out our most recent caution, the 3rd caution of the day. You see the damage to the right side of that car, and this is why that damage is there. Watch the 11 car come down hard on the Texaco Haviland number 4.
Yeah, he was involved, but he was definitely an innocent victim.
A bystander that was traveling into 190.
Yeah, and got out of it. Very fortunate.
Looked like Chase Miller made it 3 wide, and the 11 car of Brian Silas did not know he was down there. Spotter did not call him 3 wide inside probably quick enough, and he just was turning down through the corner and got into each other.
This is one of those racetracks where the ARCA officials will require 2 spotters because of the size of it and the proximity that these drivers will run with each other, and that being a case right there where a spotter was needed to let them know, hey, you're 3 wide here.
Yep. Yeah, and 3 wide is easy to do here as long as everybody's aware of that they're 3 wide.
And it's tough here. These are backstretch spotters up top, as you can see them up here perched up at the very top of the grandstands. But what's so tough here is it's a mile, you know, all the way across, a mile to a mile and a half sometimes, depending on where they're at from these spotters. So you see a lot of them have binoculars, and you have to try and talk to your driver and look through the binoculars as you see the guys looking through the binoculars on the tower there as they're going through the corner. So it's tough.
Well, speaking of talking to people, you've always got a radio. Can you talk to anybody?
We'll see if we can get Bobby Gerhardt on the radio. Bobby Gerhardt, Dan Partis in the speed booth. You copy? Hey, bud, looks like your car's pretty good, but not quite sucking up the way you like, or what you got out there?
I tell you, they did a fantastic job putting this speedway together again, and it's kind of turned the clock back maybe 15 years or so, and I'll tell you what it does, it puts drafting all back into the package again, as you can see, and if you get stuck behind the wrong car, as in my case right there, I mean, you will slide back. Just got to make wise choices about what you do. Put yourself at the right spot, and you can begin to pick your way back up front. But, man, from where I sit, one whale of a race.
Gotcha. Your overall opinion on the racetrack, Bobby, what do you think?
Fantastic, no doubt about it. Really exciting from where we all sit, I'm sure. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot of 2-3 wide racing until this goes on.
Well, we're seeing it now, so we'll be talking with you, and good luck to you, man.
Well, thank you.
Bobby Gerhardt currently being scored in the 3rd position. Now, Wendy Venerini, is fuel mileage going to come into play for this team?
It could possibly be. Now, what Bobby Gerhardt didn't tell you is the strategy they've been talking on the radio, and I spoke to Billy Gerhardt as well. Right now we're at lap 40. This is a 94-lap race. With these cautions and the more caution laps we get, the longer they can go. Now when I talked to Billy, he can go 52 laps on a fuel run. We're on lap 40. That would make 54. So if they come in on pit road in the next couple laps, they plan to stretch it the rest of the way. One stop for Bobby Gerhardt.
It is a 94-lap race, meaning if they get to 47, they're halfway. So we are currently on the 41st lap of this race, and it's under caution.
You're going to have some of those yellow flags in the second half also. And we heard Bobby say they did such a good job of repaving this track. I believe 1980 was when it was paved the last time. So
26 years ago.
26 years out of your traffic surface. I think you did good.
Bob Dillner, who have you caught up with?
I've caught up with Chip Ganassi, team owner for Juan Montoya's ARCA ride here. That's a heck of a save that your driver just did right there.
He did a good job, Bob, you know, and it's back in the pack there. You got to choose your friends carefully back there. So he learned a good lesson there.
What have you been telling him now? Obviously, he's going to be back in the pack. He's asking about friends, who to draft with, where to run on the racetrack.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's choose your friends carefully, keep your eyes open, long way to go in the race. He's got a car that can get back to the front, I think.
You think he can win this one?
Of course he can. If we didn't think that, we wouldn't be here.
Well, here we go. Pit road is open, and Juan Montoya will be coming down pit road once again.
Steve Wallace, Billy Venturini, Bobby Gerhardt, all of the lead cars coming down. Let's go back down to Bob.
Well, a good car for Stephen Wallace. He's going to do 4 tires and fuel right here, but you will see somebody reach in that car because he is having some radio problems. So they're going to give him a new radio inside that race car, and then Stephen Wallace will be good to go, Wendy.
The 25 of Billy Venturini had worked his way up to second place. 4 tires and no adjustments on the 25 machine. They did pull a small piece of tape. Also on Bobby Gerhardt, they are bringing it up with just a slight air pressure adjustment as he takes tires and fuel.
Well, you see Billy back underway, just behind Frank Kimmel, and he's got an extremely good race car. You know, for the super speedways, you know, they've worked on that program, but it costs so much money to come to the super speedways. Billy said in the past we have not been able to spend the money to do that effort, and this year he said I feel we've gone the extra step, and I think we've got something, and it's proven that today.
This team not as frantic to get back out on the racetrack because they know that when we go back to racing, they have to restart at the longest line. Bob, or Don, actually.
Well, we had a wreck down here on pit road. The 8 and the 70 car got together. Lots of damage to the 8 car and the 70 car, so we'll check on that more later.
Well, guys, down here on the other side of pit road, Juan Montoya has his number 4 machine idling as the crew's going to work on that right side. Juan felt a big vibration. In fact, you can see probably a big old hammer just flew over the side of that race car to the team as they bang on that machine, trying to get all the sheet metal back straight, back the way they want it, because aerodynamics plays such a key role here. But I don't think anything is mechanically wrong with that car, but Juan did feel a little bit of a vibration under pace laps here.
Well, not what you want to have here at Talladega for sure.
Yeah, and after you take a hit like that and you can't get out there and see how bad it is, you feel all kinds of stuff.
Your mind does strange things, and again, it's better to be cautious here, and Juan knows that, being the successful race car driver he is, that put it in the fence.
Right, and that Ganassi crew though, with the way those guys are and the talent they've got, they're not sending him back out there with the car that's not right.
ARCA has let us know that Brian Silas and Doug Reed, the 2 cars involved in this most recent accident, have been checked out from the infield care center and released. So that is good news. And Bob, what's going on with Steve Wallace?
Well, problems for him. They had to come back down pit road because they were missing some lug nuts from the left rear. So a mistake, very costly for Steve Wallace. He'll lose a bunch of spots and have to start basically at the rear of the pack. And that's tough to come up from the rear here at Talladega.
Oh, we've seen Steve Wallace get very frustrated in a car before. If I remember correctly, Michigan was not good for him.
Yeah, but that was when the engine quit, not just when he was. If he could have just restarted at the back, he'd have been okay. But that's when it was just the engine quit.
That is true. Take a look at our pit summary. Biggest move there, the number 14 of Michael Falk, from 19th to 1st. Mike Wallace back up to the top 2. It's Mighty Easy Cleaner Degreaser, and by SK Tools, the official hand tools of ARCA. People follow him than Michael Falk will.
Right, but in front of Michael Falk is Timothy Peters too.
Yep.
Who was extremely fast, had the left rear tire problem. He's back on the lead lap now, even though he's at the tail end of it. So if he can stay there and any kind of quick yellow, that puts him right back in the program.
And Michael Falk, this car that Michael's in, it's an ex-Everham car. It's actually the car, the Super Speedway car that Aaron ran, you know, this year and last year here at Talladega. So it's an extremely good car. It's got Everham power underneath the hood. Cobb's Home's a sponsor on that car, Cowboy Enterprises. Lee Falk has put together a good organization of people who that's his dad, a very successful late model racer down in the Florida area.
Yeah, and we've had record-setting year here in the ARCA REMAX Series, not only with the number of different winners, but first-time winners in this series. And potentially Michael Falk could add his name to that. We've already had 12 first-time winners this season. Blake Bjorklund adding his name to the list just 2 weeks ago in Salem. And now Michael Falk has put himself in position to maybe put his name on this list as well. Don?
Well, the 09 Mike Wallace, when he came down pit road, they did not change tires. The crew chief said these things are like brick. We don't need them. Just put fuel in it. Mike said, I was being nice to Steven out there, but that's all over now, talking about his nephew.
Well, that's one of those family things,
I was
you know.
But in the family, you got to be careful.
Yeah, and I can believe that Mike was trying to work with him pretty good at this stage of the race. I know that at later stages, just, you know, knowing both them guys are just, because they're both good racers, like any good racer, everybody's on their own. You can see that sun they were talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, until you get around turn 4, it's pretty intense there.
We've got Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. I wouldn't want to see any fights in the Wallace family.
They'll be over by then.
Pace car has made its way back onto pit road. Again, the start-finish line past the apex of the tri-oval. And so the green flag will fly. Michael Falk brings him to the green flag. Wallace behind him. And again, the 31 out in front. He is at the tail end of the lead lap.
And they don't, like, Mike doesn't want a 31 to stay there because he knows that's a car he could have to fight later in the race.
But he also knows that he needs to stay in that lead draft, so he knows that. We talked about that 31 car, Timothy Peters, how dominant it is, and it drafts so good, and it looks like it leads out front, so he knows he needs to stay with him. So I think if I was Michael Falk, I'd stay on the bumper of that 31 car.
3 and 4 wide racing coming down the backstretch and into turn number 3.
Big run. See Bobby Gerhardt way up high of the racetrack.
Kimmel also running up there, and it's kind of amazing right now. I'm seeing Kimmel and Billy Venturini drafting together. Now those two have mixed words, I guess, this season, but I guess on a super speedway, wherever you can get a draft, you're going to take it.
Right. Everybody becomes your friend here. It's just you find a car that works with you, and these guys also have got a lot of experience, both of them. So I would not want to feel better when I got a guy like that with a lot of experience. It makes me feel much better. So
it's not like they're friends, but you sure will use somebody every chance you get. I mean, I'm sure Wendy's got a comment on that.
Of course I do, and you know that battle that's been going on between Kimmel and Billy. But of course, it is all about friends. And Billy came over the radio and said, man, these Cup guys aren't helping us at all. But you know what? They can't get rid of us. So Kimmel and Billy, they stuck together, those ARCA regulars.
See the line on the outside being led around by Timothy Peters. Mike Wallace has taken over the lead from the 14. The 14's dropped back. Now the 39 of Pete Shepard with Bobby Gerhardt, Matt Hagens, and Michael Falk, your top 5.
Frank Kimmel trying to make that outside line work, but he's going to have to line 3 or 4 good cars up to make it work on the outside. But he knows the inside line's kind of clogged up right now, so I'm not sure if that's where he wants to be. On board Frank Kimmel.
There's teammate Ryan Foster to Kimmel running on the low side of the racetrack, going by him. Don, what's Frank saying?
Well, it's what Bill, his brother and crew chief, just said on the radio, reminding Frank that they took tape away from the grill, so that's going to take some of the handling away and take some of the speed away from the car. But they had to do that because Frank Kimmel had some overheating issues, so they had to take some tape away, but the car is expected to slow down a bit as a result.
We're at the halfway point, 47 to go, 47 complete of a 94-lap race, 250 miles. Mike Wallace out in front of the field, Pete Shepard second, Michael Falk, Bobby Gerhart, and Michael McDowell now your top 5.
See that outside line gathered together and it's starting to move now a little bit, so it's like the outside line might be the place to be.
At the halfway point, you're really positioning. Unless a caution comes back out, they cannot make it on fuel to the end of this race.
Right, they do need some yellow laps to be able to make it, but you know, traditionally that's something that we would see, and if I'm just feeling confident they keep running in this kind of group, that we'll get one.
That configuration right there of 3 wide with the cars being buffeted around in the center of these 2 lines on the outside and inside. Wendy, what about that 39?
We're short by a few laps.
I'm actually, you just heard it yourselves right there. Gary Rullo, the crew chief for Pete Shepard in the 39. He is short by a few laps. They told me about 7 laps they are short, so they will have to come back down pit road. Now, I do want to tell you, Pete Shepard, who is associated with Roush Racing, this is the biggest track he has ever seen. He tested here last week, the first time he has laid eyes on this speedway. It has been pretty scary, he said, but he has learned a lot in the last week.
And that's got to be a tricky place to be, is right in the center of these packs.
Right. Mike Wallace has gotten himself back where he wants to be.
And Montoya, look at Montoya on the bottom side. He's reeled this pack in already also, so he's got a tremendous drafting race car. We talked about that, and he's pulled right back up to that front lead pack.
Bad thing for Timothy Peters in the front of the inside line is that he is now officially a lap down and would not get to be able to go around to the back of the lead lap. If a caution were to come out now, he is stuck a lap down.
And look at these guys, 3 wide, you know, with, like I say, within 50 laps to go, 45 laps to go here. We got 3 solid lines running good, and then we attribute that, I guess, Kenny, to the racetrack. We talked about it.
Definitely.
A large pack, just some little debris off the inside of the racetrack, but we are still under green. Wallace out in front. Bobby Gerhart out in front of the field now as Mike Wallace has dropped back to second. Third is a battle between Hagens and Frank Kimmel, and it's which line you choose at Talladega that pushes you either forward or makes you drift back.
Yeah, I've been here before when I've been on like the 7th row inside, and when we've been lined up 12 rows deep in the spotter say the outside lane's starting to move, and I said, okay, you got any suggestions how I get over there? You know, I'm open to suggestions, but I can't think of a smooth way to do it right now.
Oh, let me know where there's an opening. Take a look at our Haviland race summary. As we've passed the halfway point, Bobby Gerhart out in front. We've had 9 lead changes. Our average speed just over 122 miles an hour, and 3 cautions for 18 laps. All 41 cars still competing.
There's a 20-car pack, 1.5 seconds from the front of that pack to the back. These guys are tight, and like we said, you know, any line at any time could move, so you just got to try and find a line that you settle into and hope that everything goes smooth.
Well, we just saw a little rubbing right there between Frank Kimmel and I guess it was Matt Hagens. It's the white car. Just a little bit of arguing over space.
Now, Kenny, the lines are a little bit deceiving because the lines that are painted on this racetrack, you would think, okay, well, there's 3 lines around here. But the lines are so wide that you could almost fit 2 cars in a line.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they painted 3 lines on it, trying to trick us, you know, that we'd only run 3 wide, yep. and it won't work. But it was a good effort.
See Steve Wallace on the outside. Comes around Frank Kimmel. Strong race car.
Looking at the number 2 of Michael McDowell there, started in the 14th position. Don, what's going on with Michael?
Well, Michael McDowell, his first ever appearance at Talladega Superspeedway, he says he's having the time of his life, and he's never learned so much in such a short period of time. He will be running Iowa Speedway next week as well. They tested there, and he recently announced that he would run a full 2007 season with the ARCA REMAX Series in this Eddie Sharp-owned Dodge Charger. Michael McDowell off to a great start and doing very well here today. Bob Dillner.
Well, Brent Sherman is having a very good race in that Serta number 04. He's actually drafting Juan Montoya right now. Sherman was penalized earlier in the race for too fast exiting, but he has come up from the rear of the field and doing very well. He likes his car right now. You see Juan Montoya right there, and boys, let me tell you something. I've been listening to his radio the entire race. It is a lap a minute. Juan just reported, hey, it's a little bit freaky out here. These boys are all over the place, to the left, to the right, to the middle. Where do you want me to run? Brad Parrott said, hey, you're the driver. You pick a lane. He goes, boys, I'm just learning. You tell me where to go.
Well, Kenny, you had mentioned earlier, and a tear-off is about to come off the windshield for Juan. Actually, as we saw him going by the start-finish line, but Bob used the word freaky. Well, Frank Kimmel was involved in a little bit of a freaky incident just a couple laps ago.
See Frank Kimmel and Matt Hagens get together a little bit. Frank was actually a little sideways, but he was able to stay in the throttle and save it. Matt must have backed out of that thing.
I don't want to give credit where credit isn't due. I said that Bob Dillner used the word freaky, but apparently it was Juan Montoya that actually used the word freaky. So working on his English slang that he's throwing out as our Fox Latin America fans are watching this race as well. Right in the middle of that pack. They're going to make it 4 wide.
He's just got to find a car that'll move with his car and move towards the front slowly. Try and be patient. He's doing a good job. You know, he stayed out of trouble. He's not been banged into somebody yet, gotten into the doors. A lot of buffing, and, you know, the wind moves you around a lot, so he's learning a lot out here right now.
Pack breaking away out in front. About 7 cars that have separated themselves. Bobby Gerhart is leading that pack. Wendy?
We don't hear from Bobby Gerhart very often on the radio, but he was pretty colorful just moments ago. He said, why won't these guys stay in line? He got very upset when everybody started to dart around as Mike Wallace passes him for the lead.
Bobby Gerhart moved out just a bit, and that opened the door for the 09.
Seen something flapping on the left front of that car a minute ago, guys. Not sure what that was. Don't know if it's a piece of tape or not, but if it was a tire, it'd be gone by now.
It must be a part of the valance or side skirt or something. We hope.
See, Bobby was just talking about that, getting a little frustrated. Why won't these guys stay in line? And when they dump under you, there's really nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's that whole racing thing.
I mean, everybody wants to do it, so just frustrating as a driver when you think everything's going up that smooth, especially when you're up front. It's just, man, why did that guy do that?
Look at this sun right here.
Difficult sun as they move their way through 3 and 4 and into the tri-oval. Mike Wallace out in front. He's been there before. Frank Kimmel has never won on a racetrack 2.5 miles or bigger.
You're the winner of the Indianapolis 500, pal. You are the winner. You are the man. You're the most famous race driver in the whole world right now.
2000 Indy 500. Well, driving for Ganassi, Montoya started second and won one of the most coveted auto races in the world. Currently, Juan has dropped back to 13th. Juan joining a few other drivers that have won the Indy 500 and then have run in the ARCA series.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, his path has been laid for him as far as what his future will hold. He will be driving for Ganassi with teammate of David Stremme in the Cup Series in 07. And so this is experience that he is gaining today on a super speedway. He will also be running in, I believe, a few Busch races later this season. And then he will run the full 07 season, starting with Daytona in February.
Well, and what a good place to be able to come and get this experience in basically a Nextel Cup car. The ARCA car rules mirror the Cup cars, and makes it a wonderful place to get the experience.
A lot of experience out in front with Mike Wallace.
22 car Chase Miller, you know, presently in 3rd position. He was involved in a little altercation, and obviously that Eddie Sharp team did a good job of getting that car back together, and he didn't hang with that lead draft.
Wasn't it Chase that was pumping the water out too?
Yes, it was. He was overheating. That's the one they put the ice in the
He's had
cooler
a
tray.
few issues in that they've been able to overcome.
Yes, he has.
Chase is one of our first-time winners in the ARCA series. Won at Pocono earlier this year. Putting on a good performance now at Talladega, sitting in the 3rd position as we have just 35 laps remaining here at Talladega.
Preferred groove is still down at the bottom, it sure looks like.
Yeah, Ken, with 34 laps to go, I actually overheard Reed Sorensen was working a little bit with Juan yesterday in practice, but Juan asked the question to Reed, do you move your foot around on the accelerator to make it not get hot or get sore or anything, because you're pushing down as hard as you can the whole time around this racetrack?
Yes, and you do have to wind up repositioning your foot while you don't let off the throttle, because you'll get cramps and stuff. So it is, this place is very unique, and it's got its whole set of different challenges that present itself that you don't have at other racetracks.
On the high side, we see the 25 of Billy Venturini just in front of the 4 of Juan Montoya. It looks as though these two may be working together, Bob.
You are absolutely correct, Rick Allen. In fact, you know, Billy Venturini is known as the bad boy of the ARCA REMAX series. He always jokes around saying, I have no friends. Well, it's pretty funny that one of his crew members ran down here to the Texaco Haviland team and said, hey, if Juan needs a friend, I can be his friend. Right now, they're trying to work together and make their way back to the front.
It's a pretty good friend to have if he can stay with him. It looks as though Billy's jumping around the racetrack quite a bit, running high in the middle.
Well, Billy got a good shot through that groove there, but Juan got such a good run. Juan was not able to hang with him. Now he's reeled him back in there, but for a second there, Billy got a heck of a run on him. Juan said, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Chip Ganassi watching. I'm sure giving advice when he feels needed.
He owns all that stuff. He can say whatever he wants, whenever he wants.
Well, the other thing, you know, I'm sure that Juan is happy to listen to anything Chip has to say. He was the owner when he won his Indy 500 and really started his vault to stardom in the racing world.
Well, and Chip knows what it's like to be inside these race cars, because Chip used to do that. So it makes it a lot easier to talk to an owner when they know some of the issues that you're facing.
Pack spreading out now. See a single file line on the low side of the track, and that appears to be the preferred line and the quick line around this racetrack. You can line up behind someone on the bottom of the track. It seems to go just a bit quicker.
Bobby Gerhardt trying to work that outside line so bad, but just can't seem to get some good help out there. Just falling back.
Justin Allgaier having a good run. He's currently in 12th, but he's hanging right there with him.
Yep, Justin can get it done. Just hard luck, brand new race car for Justin Allgaier.
That number 99 of Kelly Byers currently in the 6th position. Michael Falk back to 5th. When we restarted, Michael Falk was out in front of the field.
Oh, I believe. Did I see the left front fender up?
Yep. Looks like
left front tire.
Tire come off that 9 car of Matt Hagan. It's unfortunate for him. Good run for him. This car finished 3rd at Daytona like we talked about earlier.
Caution has come out, and so our 4th caution of the day has come out, and it looks as though it's a cut tire of the number 9 of Matt Hagan's.
This will take fuel out of the equation.
Yes, it will. Matt can get down on pit row and get the tire change and hopefully not lose a lap. It would be beneficial to him.
Take one more look. Matt's in front of the short pack here, and you see the tire blowing there, and he made an immediate left and getting off of the racetrack, and getting out of the racing surface.
Good job of getting that car down, and that's a tough part of the racetrack. If the drivers complain about any part of this race on the new pavement, that was kind of the part through the trial. Well, there's a little bit of ridge there where the pavers have overlapped, and they say the drivers were complaining a little bit that there's a little, you know, kind of free feeling through there, so you just have to hold on to that wheel.
So our fourth caution has come out at Talladega Super Speedway. They slow back down to about 60 miles an hour after going 190 around this. Welcome back to Talladega, Alabama for the Food World 250. Kenny, I know that it's been a long day already for you, and you've got other things that you've got to take care of.
Hot laps start here in just a little bit over at Talladega Short Track, so we're going to go across the street and run over there, and then between races tonight, have to turn this on and see how it wound up.
Well, thanks a lot for coming up here and joining us, and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Want to take a look at our Hardcore Motorsports Safety Initiative. Talk a little bit about the University of Northwestern Ohio.
The University of Northwestern Ohio, they have several programs from automotive, diesel, they have business programs and high performance, which I attended. The program is basically a 2.5-year program for associate's degree. It teaches you anything from the behind-the-scenes business end of the motorsports industry to working on the cars, from building them from the ground up. It's a very good program.
People that have come and worked with us, they are very enthusiastic about wanting to learn things and try to do different things and find out what they might be interested in doing. It's worked out very well.
It gives you, I mean, the basic knowledge, what you need to know about the cars and how they work and what you need to look for, especially like on the tech line and stuff like that. It helps out a lot, you know.
You know, they have it to where they can work on cars, or they can go work on a pit crew, or you know, any of the other different aspects of it. This gives them another alternative to where they can come and still be involved in racing, but yet maybe not be the hands-on where they're working on a car, but they're still involved, they're at the track, and they're learning the other aspects of racing.
The program gets us in there, and it's a lot more than I expected to be able to be doing the first year I was in it. And they put us out there and they give us the responsibilities, and it teaches you real fast.
Huge learning experience, and speaking of real fast, well, we're going to go real fast here at Talladega as we have just a few laps over 20, I believe 28 laps remaining in this race. Frank Kimmel was one of the drivers that made his way onto pit road. Don, what took place down there?
Well, Bill Kimmel, the crew chief, came on and said, we're going to be really close on fuel. These cautions will help us out a lot. And then Frank came back and said, I don't care what the other cars do. I'm trying to win this thing. Don't let me run out of fuel. Consequently, they came down pit road, put fuel in it, and 4 tires. Wendy?
Billy Venturini gave up his top spot as well and moved back to 12th by coming down pit road, taking fuel. They also had to make a slight adjustment up on the panner bar, and they did have to pull tape. The temps got up to 265, a little scary for the engine tuner here on the 25. Bob?
Well, Wendy, fuel seems to be the name of the game, or the question right now for everybody on pit road. In fact, the 61 car of Steve Wallace, they had to come down pit road, but here was the decision process. The crew told them, hey, if the leaders come down pit road, you come too. We know we're a little bit short on fuel, but we may be able to make it with a bunch of caution laps, which could always happen here at Talladega. But when the leaders came down, Steven came down as well. They are good to go from here to the finish.
We have not seen a lot of caution laps here. As a matter of fact, when we talk about the big one, we haven't seen the big one. Probably our biggest accident took place between the 11 and the 78. And we see the 09 coming back down on pit road. Bob?
Problems for Mike Wallace. A flat left rear tire has been reported on the car, so he had to bring that machine down pit road. A tough break for Mike Wallace, running so well here at Talladega.
Mike Wallace was leading the field prior to having to come back down on pit road. Another driver making a final stop, the 22 of Chase Miller.
A lot of these guys were so close that, you know, listen to the radio conversation. Can we make it? Can we can't make it? Some of them are just saying, hey, let's not roll the dice. Let's get in and get some gas. Bobby Gearhart's not one of them. He chose to stay on the racetrack. He said, let's roll the dice. Might get dark on us. They may shorten this race. Let's go for it.
Well, Kelly Byers is now in front of the field in the number 99 Ford. So he's looking to win the Food World 250 from Talladega. 27 laps to go for the Food World 250, the ARCA Remax Series from Talladega Superspeedway. Restrictor plate racing when there wasn't restrictor plates. Bill Venerini set the track record here in qualifying at over 205 miles an hour.
That's cruising. That is cruising over 205 mile an hour. What an awesome record. And talked to Bill about that a little bit yesterday, and he said, man, he said it was just a rush. All you would do is just hold on to the race car, hope it didn't get turned sideways.
Well, a gamble for the Lucas Chevrolet, number 5 for Bobby Gerhardt. Wendy, what are they gambling on?
Bobby Gerhardt, of course, they're gambling. That's what it is. No fuel on the 5, and that was the decision made by Bobby and Billy themselves. They've been talking about it all race. They felt like they could go 52 laps, and when they pit, it was right on that line, so it will be pretty close when we get down to the wire. Bob?
Wendy, some people at home may be wondering who the heck is Kelly Byers. He is this year's ASA Late Model Series champion from Waltham Racing, now given a chance in this 99 car with Wood Brothers Racing. Now, they too are very concerned about fuel. In fact, about 4 laps ago, they said they needed another 7 laps under caution to make it. Well, as time goes by here, that's good, but when we get the green, technically they're still going to be 2 laps short, Don.
As the debate went on and on between Bill and Frank Kimmel to pit or not to pit, as it turns out, it was a pretty good move coming down pit road. They have since discovered that the left rear tire on Frank Kimmel's port board was going flat.
A lot of flat tires out there today, guys, and fortunate we picked a few of them up under pit stops.
That is exactly what you need when you're running for a championship, is you need to have a little luck on your side.
Yes, it does.
Riding along with the 62 of Ryan Kaltrider. Started this one in 27th, currently 25th. Made it all the way up to 16th. Dropped back to 34th. That all could have happened in 1 lap around Talladega.
I mean, if he gets in an outside line or an inside line, he'll be back up there in that top 15 or 20 there with no problem at all. So again, it's about attrition. But look at the sun, Rick, like we talked about through the windshields of these cars. As driver, it's so tough. You see out the windshield Justin Marks' cars as he comes off of turn 4 there. We lose some of that sun, but man, is that just brutal on a driver, especially running 190 mile an hour on the corner with, just basically blinds you for a few seconds.
Pace car has made his way back onto pit road, leaving the field in the hands of Kelly Byers. On the inside, that is the 7, A.J. Hendrickson. A.J. being scored 24th. He is the first car a lap down.
Clear, all clear.
Green flag is flown, and Kelly Byers comes up through the gears. Bobby Gerhardt looking for his 2nd win at Talladega Superspeedway and trying to do what he has to do to win the championship, and that means he really needs to win this race and Iowa, and he needs to see Frank Kimmel finish out of the top 26. That's all he can do.
He does, Rick, and you had it figured earlier. I mean, it can happen, so he knows what he has to do. He sat on the pole here. He has to win here today, then go into Iowa and give it everything he's got there.
Bobby Gerhardt puts so much effort into super speedways as far as testing goes. They will continually work on their super speedway program. They want to be good at Daytona, and they want to be good at Talladega. And right now, he's showing you he is very good at Talladega as he takes the point.
He does see the 7 car, A.J. Hendrickson there. He's a lap down, but he was able to help Bobby get around the 99 car, Kelly Byers. And this is what Bobby Gerhardt wanted. With 25 laps to go, he needs to get out front, and then he just needs to work that racetrack and just hope he can work traffic and keep it up there.
Riding along with Steve Wallace is currently in the 3rd position. Bob?
Well, Rusty Wallace is coaching his son Steven right now to get back up to the front of the field. And right now, the 61 team and the 4 team of Juan Montoya have agreed to work together, to stick together until they get to the top 2 spots. And then all bets are off.
That's right. It wasn't a mistake what he just said, get to the top 2 spots. Juan Montoya, remember, came down pit road, was penalized because he came down too soon, had to go to the back of the longest line. He's worked his way back up into the top 5, currently running 4th.
Yep, and Brad Parrott has been talking to his driver saying, calm down, buddy, we got a good race car. Your car's not hurt. You're going to be fine. The vibration was just a little bit of a tire issue. We got it fixed. Keep calm, and that's exactly what he's done. And Juan Montoya has now got the confidence to drive that car back up front.
Well, and he just drove it right. drove it right into the back end of the New South Lemonade of Steve Wallace. He was a little bump drafting. So this is different than what you would see in F1, but right there, he gives him another shove.
He's learning about it, just got the position from 99 Kelly Byers, but this is what Stephen Wallace likes. Stephen likes to drive like this. He likes his excitement. He's an aggressive driver, and he says, thank you, Juan.
Juan Montoya bumps Steve Wallace in front of Bobby Gerhardt, so Steve Wallace takes over the point. Juan Montoya holds on to second. Now Kelly Byers is holding on to third as Bobby Gerhardt on the outside will battling for the position.
Not what Bobby wanted to see within 23 laps to go here. Again, he needed to keep that race car out front. You get on that outside line, and they're passing them. They're freight training them on that inside line. Bobby Gerhardt's not happy right now.
Also throwing his name into contention. We haven't talked about him, but Blake Bjorklund now in the 5th position in that number 32. Blake Bjorklund, our most recent winner at Salem.
Well, he qualified back deeper in the field, and his car was not good. Talking to Blake yesterday, he said, I'm just not happy, but, man, he's come alive here.
So out in front, it's Steve Wallace. Juan Montoya working together to make their way up to the front. But as they mentioned, when the laps dwindle down, they may not be friends and work together. Juan Montoya staying right behind that New South Lemonade, number 61 Chevy of Steve Wallace. They will hold their positions. Blake Bjorklund taking over 4th. Just behind them in 5th, Pete Shepard. Guy moving back, though, the 5 of Bobby Gerhardt. So Gerhardt, who was up in front of this field until Juan Montoya gave a shove to Steve Wallace. Wallace took over the point. Gerhardt drops all the way back to 9th. So it's Wallace out front, Montoya in his first ever stock car race in 2nd, challenging for the win. Welcome back to Talladega, Alabama. Positions holding. Steve Wallace, Juan Montoya, and Kelly Byers, your top 3. Blake Bjorklund throwing his name into the hat as well as far as potential drivers wanting to win here at Talladega. Pete Shepard, another development driver in the 39 for Roush Racing. Jack Roush actually made the comment, he reminds me of a young Mark Martin. Pretty big, impressive statement from Jack Roush. Bob Dillner.
Well, you never know what's going to happen on pit road. Pretty funny. Just a second ago, Brad Parrott ran down here. You see him right now. He's in the 61 pit stall, and that's because those two are working together. In fact, Juan Montoya came over the radio and said, I am going to stick to the back bumper of the 61 like glue until the white flag. So Brad Parrott ran down here to the crew just to explain things, and now he's staying here just to hang out a little bit.
Well, wait a second. You can't tell your strategy to the guy you're racing against.
Well, they're saying that now, but if the cars get shuffled, that outside line gets running, they could get busted up again. But Juan on the radio a few minutes ago talking to his spotter saying, where do I go? The high side, the low side? What line do I get in? Nobody said nothing. Brad Parrott came back on and said, buddy, you're driving that race car. You go where you want to go. You're doing an awesome.
Where to go?
Well, that's what he said. He said, you guys have got the experience. Tell me where to go. He said, we can't tell you what to do out there. Just do what you do best. And that's exactly what he's doing here now.
Well, right now he is drafting the 61 of Steve Wallace. And we see 6 cars in a draft here that separated themselves from 7th right now. That'll only be for a little while as they'll suck up behind them. But again, 3 cars nose to tail. Wallace, Montoya, and Byers all separated by under 0.2 of a second when they go across the start-finish line.
Yep. See Frank Kimmel on the outside line. Mike Wallace right behind him. They've got to get that outside line moving again. Bobby Gerhardt desperately wanting to get back up front there. These 3 cars know they have to do it on the outside because by going single file, it takes them nowhere. And it's working right now if they can keep that front going.
Frank Kimmel needs some help. Juan Montoya helped Steve Wallace as he pushed him up to the front. Frank Kimmel's asking for anybody to come out with him. Kimmel running the high side and looks as though he's gaining just a bit on our leaders. We'll find out if Kimmel can move to the front when we come back. Frank Kimmel, the man on the move on the high side. He's got Mike Wallace behind him as we see Pete Shepard being shuffled back through the middle. Also in that line, the 5 of Bobby Gerhardt. And so 2 former winners at Talladega. Talladega, running nose to tail as Kimmel is getting pushed to the front of the field. Frank Kimmel has never won a restrictor plate race in the ARCA REMAX Series.
There's no better person than Mike Wallace I'd want to have out there in that field to push me to the front. Mike Wallace can flat get it done, Rick. You've seen him in the Truck Series. He knows how to draft, and he's an aggressive drafter, and he can feel that wind. He knows where to go. And Frank Kimmel, he's got tons of experience, too.
Kimmel has just taken the point. He takes away the air from the 61 of Steve Wallace, and so now Frank Kimmel, with just 16 laps of racing to go, looking to claim his first ever Super Speedway win.
Steve Wallace there on the bottom saying, wow, where did Kimmel come from? And, you know, that Kimmel group, you got to owe it to them. They put a tremendous effort into this race. The Super Speedways has never been that group's forte, but this time, Bill Kimmel, Frank Kimmel said, we're going to put it on them. We've gone the routes. They've helped us out with the car. We've worked on
problems. We got problems coming through. Turns 3 and 4. Coming out of 4, the 32 of Blake Borkland pinned to the 87. Also involved, the 25 of Bill Venturini. Brent Sherman in the 04, the 39 of Pete Shepard.
Well, there it is, guys. There's the big wreck we were talking about. 16 of Justin Allgaier. Unfortunate. Just takes one to get a little twisted, and that's what happens. 3 wide racing as you come off of 4. That's an end result.
Quite a few cars involved. Billy Venturini was looking to improve on his best finish here, which was second back in 2003. Would have had to win, had a car that looked like he could contest for the win. Blake Bjorklund in that 32 also with terminal damage.
Brent Sherman in the 04 car, Serta Mattress car also involved.
It's got to be disappointing for Blake Bjorklund, just coming off that win in Salem 2 weeks ago.
Yep, and again, you know, these guys have had such a good race for so long, running 3 and 4 wide that, you know, it's just a matter of time, not if. One of them just got a little bit of loose. There's Billy Venturini out of the car, good sign. Just an extremely good run today for Billy Venturini. Hats off to him for the effort that they've put to the Speedway program.
Take one look at what took place. Again, this is 3 wide, trying to run 3 wide. That's Pete Shepard in the 39 that was in the middle of that. We'd seen him run in the middle quite a bit today. 27.
Guys pinned up against the wall.
Yep, 87 of Tony Abe. Also involved.
Happens quick. You see it happen right in here.
Blake Bjorklund looked as though didn't know that that 39 was on the inside.
That's exactly what it looks like. There's nowhere to go, and sometimes when our spotters don't tell us there's a guy on the inside, we pull down. There's just nothing you can do. Once you do, it's too late. It takes a split second.
Don't know how many times you hear the words "hold your line," especially in restrictor plate racing when everyone's running so close together.
On board the 65 car, Justin Marks, Construction Corp.
So one of the cars involved, the 32 of Blake Bjorklund. Well, coming into this race, he is leading the Rookie of the Year contest. Ryan Foster currently second, just 20 points out. The big one just took place in Talladega. Welcome back to the Food World 250. We talked about the sun being a problem earlier for some of the drivers. Well, the sun has gone down as this most recent caution has come out, and because there are no lights on this racetrack, that means this race could be shortened because of nighttime.
Yep, we talked about it earlier, and these drivers kind of kept that in their strategy. So I'm sure Frank Kimmel's loving life right now. Let's give him a holler and see what he has to say about it. Frank Kimmel, Dan Partis in the speed booth. You copy? Hey, buddy, looks like you won you another one. Good feeling out there on Talladega.
Peaches, Dan. Oh, that's unbelievable, really, that we won this race. Coming from that last pit stop and Bill and the guys did a great job. We decided to put 4 tires on. I had a pretty good vibration. Bill said the left rear tire may have been going flat, so it was a good deal for us. And got to thank all the pork producers across the country that helped us out. And what a phenomenal day. Just really happy.
Man, you guys were behind. You fell back there a little bit, and Mike Wallace, you got to hand it to him a little bit. Him and Bobby Gerhardt on that outside line kind of pushed you towards the front.
Can't win this race without people helping. Mike and I have always had great races together, and Wow, pretty big, buddy.
Well, congratulations to you. We'll see you.
An extremely big night, I guess you would say, for Frank Kimmel, and the fact that this is the first restrictor plate race of his career that he's ever won. Now, you've got to look at his numbers. This is his 68th win in the ARCA REMAX Series, and yes, that's right, his first ever super speedway win on a track 2.5 miles or larger.
Well, tremendous victory for that team. Again, they worked hard, they did what they had to do, and they came here to win this race, and they've done exactly that.
And this could be deceiving, that shot you just saw, because the camera's irises have to open so wide to make it not look as dark as it actually is here. We see our unofficial results. Frank Kimmel in front of Steve Wallace. Juan Montoya in his first ever stock car performance comes home in third. Kelly Byers, another rookie, running out there for the first time, coming home in fourth.
Bobby Gerhardt not wanting to finish sixth. You know, he was a contender to win, but I'm sure he'll be happy there. Michael McDowell, Michael Falk, tremendous run for that team. Chase Miller and Dexter Bean rounding out top 10.
First timers running so well around this racetrack. The four of Juan Pablo Montoya in his inaugural event in the ARCA series and in stock car racing, with the damage that he was able to avoid in an accident that took place back on lap 36. It didn't fluster him at all. He was able to work his way back up toward the front. We see the Pork team making their way to try to get up with Frank Kimmel. Kimmel will be making his way to victory lane shortly. That whole group's going to have to run back to victory lane because it's about a half a mile from the start-finish line.
Again, these guys have put such an effort into this race, it really showed. A bit of help from Roush and Ford. Their effort really paid off here today.
Obviously, it will be disappointing for guys like Steve Wallace and Juan Montoya, Kelly Byers, Mike Wallace, all drivers in the top 5 that I'm sure wanted to race for this win, but because of the time of day and just the fact that it is getting so dark, it wouldn't be safe for them to be racing out there. And again, I mentioned the irises on the cameras. They open them up so the maximum amount of light can get in. It is dark out there right now. Actually, the moon is shining about as bright as anything as Frank Kimmel begins his celebration at Talladega. His first win at either Talladega or Daytona.
Well, Frank usually not doing donuts on the racetrack, but he is just so happy here. It's just a tremendous victory for him to come from the back there with a few laps to go. That last lap speed was 194.6 miles an hour. They were cruising on that outside line when he got that shove.
Frank Kimmel wanting to leave his mark here at Talladega on the new racing surface. The ARCA REMAX Series, the first race on this new racing surface. The moon has come out, and it was a lucky moon for Frank Kimmel. Speed's coverage of the ARCA REMAX Series from Talladega is presented by REMAX. Outstanding agents, outstanding results. Brought to you in part by Food World. Everyday low prices. By SK Tools, the official hand tools of ARCA, and by its Mighty Easy degreaser. Let's go down to Bob Dillner. I believe he's trying to catch up with Juan Montoya.
Exactly. It's definitely a little bit chaotic down here, but Juan Montoya getting out of the car. And Juan Montoya, a podium finish, as your crew chief Brad Parrott said, but there's no podium here at Talladega.
No, it's great. I think the Texaco Havoline Dutch behaved really well today. We were very lucky earlier, and I was running all the way in the bottom, and I think the two guys in the right touch, and they came at me, and I was pretty lucky not to lose it. But, it was good. It was good. I worked, with the 61 all day, and especially at the end of the race, I just stayed with him, and I said, I'm not into saying winner, we just want to go to the front.
You kept on saying on the radio, hey, I'm a student today, I'm learning. How much did you learn?
A lot. This experience is unique, and I'll tell you, I never had so much fun in my life. It's freaky, you're always on the edge, but it was fun.
Hey, how does this compare to be running at Indy, waiting to make your move, and then you come out here in a big, heavy stock car in the draft with the restrictor plate?
This was fun, but, I think this is going to be about a third of the fun when I go to Cup Cars next year.
Juan Montoya with a podium finish for the rookie driver here in the ARCA REMAX Series, and that sounds funny to say, Wendy.
Stephen Wallace is all smiles as he took a walk around his car. You had a little bit of damage on the rear bumper from bump drafting from Juan Montoya. It's not so bad, was it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, for Juan Montoya is like truly a first-class race car driver. He drove me clean, and then
and like for surely helped me stay out front. But New South Lemonade, Dodge was really strong. It's just a shame, we were leading the race and Frank got past us and then they called the race. But I guess that's part of the race. I couldn't think of a better guy to see you win the race is Frank Kimmel. Me and him are good buddies. But the team did good. My crew chief, everybody. So for everything. Point good, and it was overall a great day.
I know Steven's happy, but he's bummed he didn't get one more shot and another green flag lap. Don?
What a happy victory lane celebration this will be. I can assure you, the happiest man in Talladega, Alabama, and crew. First ever restrictor plate victory for Franklin James Kimmel after more than 15 years at the helm. Congratulations, Frank. Come on down and show yourself to America and Columbia today, live on Fox Sports down there, wherever. Frank, tell me about your day. Where did you find the speed in the end?
Well, Mike Wallace won the race for us. He got in behind me, and him and Bobby, I think, was pushing him. So we didn't have a chance. We didn't get a good push from behind. And the guys gave us a great run there from behind. And you believe we won that time? Daggone.
I'm going to have to now. I'm seeing it live. How did you win this race?
The car was just awesome all day. We could pretty much get to the front or battle for it all day, and just kind of be careful because we was points racing, and Bobby was always so good here. We knew that he'd be there.
How relieved are you to finally get the restrictor plate victory behind you?
I was pretty emotional there at the end. They said it was over. I was, man, I didn't know if I could ever win one of these things.
And by the way, Frank, by our calculations, you are now the Hoosier Tire Super Speedway Challenge champion for the season. We talked about that at the onset of the show.
That's pretty big. Bobby had a great season and ran us really hard, and we had a lot of trouble. And but these port guys never gave up. And man, to come out a win with this new port car is a really special deal for us.
Yeah, talk about those port guys. How about crew chief Bill Kimmel, the SK Tool crew chief of the race? These guys are a happy bunch, and they should be.
Interviews will continue with our winner from Talladega, and all smiles for Frank Kimmel. We take a look at our point standings. 285 separate Gerhardt and Kimmel. Now all that Frank Kimmel has to do is make it through Tech in Iowa next Sunday. If he's able to do that, the most points that you can gain in one race, even if Bobby Gerhardt wins the pole, wins the race, leads all the laps, he can only gain 215 points on Frank Kimmel. And so Frank Kimmel, all he has to do is make it through Tech in Iowa to claim his 8th championship in the ARCA REMAX Series. Let's go back down to pit road.
Well, here's a name you're going to hear a lot of in coming years. Kelly Byers, the ASA champ this year, and a 4th place finish in your first restrictor plate track. How about it?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We had quite a run there, considering we were overheating the whole race, and we had to come in twice there into the first caution, pull tape. We pulled tape again at the pit stop where we stopped there at the end, and I mean, literally, I just had to keep ducking out down both straightaways. I don't know why I was overheating if it wasn't full of water, but the guys did an excellent job, keeping me on the lead lap, keeping me out front, and I really learned a lot today, too, in the draft.
You've seen this type of race on TV, the restrictor plate chaos. How was it behind the wheel? Was it the same as you watch on TV?
Oh, man, it's crazy out there. I mean, it's really fun. I really enjoyed doing it. Everyone raced pretty clean. It was pretty neat. Wasn't a lot of people doing any stupid things out there, and it was pretty neat. We ran 3 wide there for quite a while, and everyone, gave each other room, and it's totally different than you watch on TV. I mean, going in there, you're dragging your brake, you're on and off the gas just a hair. I mean, you get a run on someone, you can't go by them, you got to be patient. There's a lot of patience involved out there.
And now Kelly Byers is hopping on a plane going to La Crosse, Wisconsin to compete in Oktoberfest up there. But Kenny Schrader, you're going to hear a lot of this guy because he's running for Rookie of the Year in the Craftsman Truck Series next year.
Well, Kelly Byers, we hope to see that name involved in a lot of the fantastic finishes taking place in the Craftsman Truck Series. And you'll want to stay tuned to Speed tomorrow as they will take to Talladega for the first time ever in the history of that series. We take a look at our unofficial results. Frank Kimmel claiming his 68th victory in the ARCA REMAX Series. Our 11 through 20. A lot of first-time drivers at Talladega making it into the top 20. Impressive drives here at the Food World 250. Welcome back to Talladega, Alabama. The sky's nearly as dark as the racing surface here at Talladega Super Speedway. The safety crews continuing to clean up the most recent accident that shortened this race to just 81 laps. We take a look at what happened on lap 79. Blake Bjorklund in the 32, getting into the 39 of Pete Shepard, that making the chain reaction take place. And it was near the back of the pack, but there was enough cars involved that they just were not able to clean that mess up in time to get this one restarted in a safe manner because it was getting so dark. And one of the drivers that was involved in that accident, the 04 of Brent Sherman, is standing by with Wendy Venerini.
It'll make you sick to your stomach when you look back in the garage and see all these wrecked cars behind us. Brent, the good news is you're okay. Talk us through what you saw.
Well, initially I saw a bunch of smoke, and I saw some guys in front of me spinning. I think it was the 39 or the 87. And, you know, everyone was doing a great job up until then. You know, a couple minor wrecks here and there, but it was getting down to the nitty-gritty, and people were trying to make moves that maybe they shouldn't have. Or, you know, I don't know. It's just so hard. I mean, people say it again and again, but you know, I just got caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and so did a bunch of other guys. And unfortunately, we have a wrecked race car, and that's probably what hurts the most. Fortunately, I'm okay. Sort of Ford was okay throughout the night. Hopefully, we could have salvaged a couple more spots toward the end of the race, but we were just riding a lot of the time, and I'm sure a lot of guys were too, because everyone seemed to be pretty behaved until then. But just unfortunate. You know how much everyone spends, the time that everyone spends getting these cars ready for these races, and it's just unfortunate we have to take them back to the shop and put all the work back into them.
And Brent Sherman also added it was the hardest hit he's ever had in a race car. Rick?
Going awful quick when he hit that wall. We take a look at the results. Again, unofficial results. Frank Kimmel claiming victory at the Super Speedway. First restrictor plate race that Frank Kimmel has ever won in his ARCA career.
Mike Wallace there, just a heck of a race car. Finished 5th.
17th place was a lap down. Norm Benning finished 2 laps down in 27th place. And Brent Sherman, you see him 2 laps down also in 31st. Ryan Howard, the first out. Don?
Well, Bobby Gerhart certainly had a shot at victory lane today. He always does in the restrictor plate world, but you're a little wrinkled up on the left rear, Bobby. I guess you caught a piece of the late race action as well.
Well, I caught a couple pieces throughout the event. I think the biggest thing that hurt us, Don, early on there was a tire that came apart in the backstretch, and I mean, I had no idea it was sitting there, and somebody in front of me hit it, and that, as you can see, it ripped all the skirting off the car and took a little bit away. But heck of a race. You know, hope everybody's safe in that accident, and you know, without any friends out there, and I didn't have many today, that's just what happens.
So how's this set you up for heading to Daytona?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. You know, we ran real competitive. I think we got the most out of our hot rod here tonight, and I did put us in a good frame of mind. We're going to dig deep starting tomorrow morning.
Well, first he's got to get to Iowa. That's next week. Bob Dillner?
We got a full moon here at Talladega tonight, and it certainly maybe played a little bit of a mysterious magic on the bad style for Mike Wallace, a flat tire, and you're a little disappointed.
Oh, I'm a lot disappointed, to be honest with you, Bob. You know, it's unfortunate we had a flat tire leading the race under caution. Thank the 99 guys for letting us know we had a left rear go flat, but you know, congratulations to Frank Kimmel for the win. We helped him push him up there, but my God, why wouldn't they have started the race earlier? They knew it gets dark at this time. You know, there was no reason, no excuse for the race to be called. You know, I mean, we should have just started it earlier, but I'm disappointed because I didn't win. I thought I could win.
Mike Wallace, tough break for him, but he did go to victory lane and pour some water on Frank Kimmel and said, you know what, Frank, you owe me $100 because you won today because I had trouble.
Well, I guess you can say whatever you want with the guy who's in victory lane. Another guy in victory lane with him, that is his crew chief, Bill Kimmel, the SK Crew Chief Award winner. Crew chief of the race, Bill Kimmel, for that number 46. And he put together an impressive vehicle. They called it Eva. And Eva was victorious today in Talladega. It was Bobby Gerhart who started up front. There was the bump drafting. There were the accidents. We saw cars flying around this 2.66 mile super speedway. Dan?
Juan Montoya, excellent job, brings it home in 3rd place. You know, just a tremendous, stellar performance from him.
The first race on the new racing surface here at Talladega was impressive. It's a smooth surface, and it was smooth enough that Frank Kimmel grabbed his first win in the super speedway restrictor plate racing here at Talladega Super Speedway.